Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my YouTube channel, The School of Love. My name is Maria, and I am helping people discover their inner potential for love towards oneself and towards the others. I invite you today to a new video from the series How to Be a Good Human, How to Do Things Better, How to Live a More Accomplished Life, and so on. And to that purpose, I usually deliver 10 guidelines which might lead to the intended outcome. In today's video, I will present 10 guidelines on how to be a good enough sister and daughter. So, first of all, a disclaimer: when I talk about how to be a good enough human being, aka a decent human being, or how to be a good enough sister, or how to be a good enough daughter, or I have other videos on how to be a good enough employee or friend and so on, I do not promote by any means a life of mediocrity. What I'm talking about is about the ability to find a sense of balance, and about the ability or the skill to develop this inner sense of accomplishment and contentment, which then opens the gate to doing one's best, to strive towards leading an extraordinary life. In my opinion, therefore, it is very important to achieve in a first step life of balance and an inner sense of fulfillment and contentment before striving to lead an extraordinary life. Not that an extraordinary life is necessarily mandatory or something, but in today's world, we often forget the necessity to just be alive in the first place, and being alive and staying alive refers to this ability, on one hand, to achieve this inner sense of peace, of freedom, of acceptance, and to the skill to develop oneself constantly and consistently so that one can stay safe, sane, healthy, balanced, and loving towards oneself and towards the others. So let's get started with today's guidelines on how to be a good enough sister and daughter. I have a different video on this tridimensional structure of human identity, which means as a mother, as a woman who is self-aware of her own sexuality, and as a sister or daughter. So that is, as member of nuclear family, which, for better or for worse, I always describe as an invention of post-World War II society. So when we talk about traditional family, we actually talk about the extended family, which nowadays we would describe as kind of immediate community, despite the fact that nowadays most people do not live close, not most, but many people do not live close to the place where they had been born. So, and what they describe nowadays as traditional family actually equals nuclear family, but nuclear family is a social or sociological invention of the post-World War II era, which saw this explosion, almost instant explosion in nuclear families, and in this development of two grown-ups of different gender until recently, who would build a new social unit, the nuclear family, which has come, for whatever reasons, again, to be considered the cell of the society. But for millennia, probably even longer, humans actually lived in extended families, and which then blended into over individual communities and local communities. And while they did have these parental structures, for procreation, it was a very fluid structure, in fact, and it all evolved throughout the centuries, but particularly in our era, so for the past 2022 years, the concept of procreation, marriage, love, romantic love, arranged marriage, social obligations, individual feelings, and so on. It all developed and became increasingly intertwined, so that nowadays we have the so-called nuclear family. But anyway, what I wanted to say is that within this tridimensional structure of human identity, we have the concept of mother, or the dimension referring to mother, so someone who gives birth to a child, the dimension of a woman as who is self-aware of her own sexuality, so someone who falls in love with a partner, and a dimension of being a sister or daughter, so someone who is genetically connected to other humans without necessarily being their mother or their lover. So it's very important to have in mind this tridimensional structure of the human being. And of course, we have extrapolate this to being a father, a man self-aware of his own sexuality, and a brother or a son. So we have all these concatenations which relate to both genders. Nowadays I know there are more genders, but let's stick to the classical division of the population. So it's important in the first step to learn this tridimensional structure of human identity. The second step is we have to prepare to divide this tridimensional identity into priorities. Yeah? So when one has just had a child, a baby, of course the mother dimension will have priority over the sister or woman dimension, but it's very important to find a sense of balance after a while. So let's say not over weeks or over a month, but within a year, one has to find in a proportion of 70 to 80% a sense of balance. So 1/3 being a mother, 1/3 being a partner, a woman, and 1/3 being a member of the family. And it's and by setting priorities, one also sets this hierarchies of values of what's important for me right now, what's important for me short and medium term, and what's important for me long term. I would say long term is very important to keep balance, but short and mid term, it's important to find some sort of like to focus on what has highest priority. Then number 3, once one has this priorities set into place, it's important to learn to set and enforce boundaries. What happens very often is that, particularly as women, we are educated and socialized to sort of forget ourselves in our efforts to please the others and to make sure that others are feeling well and good and taken care of. What this actually leads to resentment and leads to this sense of unfulfillment, on this simmering anger, which very quickly can escalate and will escalate into contempt. Someone, a very smart person, once said, if you start by sacrificing yourself for the others, you'll end up resenting those you have been sacrificing yourself for. And curiously, we tend to sacrifice ourselves for those closest to us, those we think we love the most, so that in the end we get to the point where we simply resent and hate them. And this is what it is meant by conditional love. We don't really love them. We just look for a sense of validation from them, and for that we sacrifice ourselves. So this is not the sense of life. This is not the purpose of life, particularly in this era when we live over 80, 90, or even 100 years. The purpose of life is to find our own identity, as three-dimensional or pluridimensional as it might be, and then to take care of the others, so that without losing ourselves in this care for the others. So Number 3 is learn to set and enforce boundaries. Number 4, learn to love in a healthy manner the members of your family, both immediate and extended family. This means have clear communication, spend quality time with them, and listen non-judgmentally. Again, these 3 elements are very important while setting boundaries. So it's important to communicate clearly. It's not so much what you say, but what they perceive. And always is crucial to make sure that they do understand, do get your point. So don't leave a conversation without making sure that the other person has understood you at least to 80-90% correctly. Then spend quality time with the people you love. We are all busy nowadays, yeah? And most of the time we just sit somewhere and then play with our smartphone or listen to music or have small talk. And this is not the sense of life. This is not what it is meant to be with someone. To being with someone, spending quality time with someone is being present with them and just be there for them for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 1 hour if you are generous, but be there, be present with them, listen to them non-judgmental. This means without thinking, what am I going to say next, without giving unsolicited advice, without judging, without projecting your own insecurities and unfulfillments upon them. Just listen to them and be present. And this is a great gift you can give to those around you. So this would be number 5, clear communication. Number 6, spend quality time. Number 7, listen non-judgmentally. Number 8, this might come as a surprise, but in my opinion it is very important. This refers to finances. As soon as you become legally an adult, take full responsibility for your finances and strive to become financially independent as soon as possible. So this is my experience, and I encourage all young people around me to do the same, so my kids and my students. And this refers to the fact that you are not a full-fledged adult until you are financially independent on one hand. On the other hand, the sooner you learn to be financially independent, the sooner you have this sense of contributing to your life, of being the master of your life, and therefore of contributing to the society around you. Many people will think, but why do I need this? Well, you need this as a practice for your life. The longer you postpone becoming financially independent, the longer you will have this sense of not really belonging in your life, as if your life does not really belong to you, as if you do not really have control of your life, as if you are still somehow dependent, and you are dependent on those who are financing you. I can tell you from my own experience that being financially independent, even if you are not financially abundant, but having this idea that I can take care of myself fully, I do not need to borrow money or to get financial support from my parents, from my grandparents, from the state or whatever. This is the feeling you have is a feeling of freedom, of liberation, of unlimited possibilities opening in front of you. I have different videos on financial education, on how to become financially responsible, full-fledged adult, how to take responsibility financially of your life, and so on. So be sure to watch those videos as well. So number 9 relates to number 8, means help your parents, help your family, help everyone, help people out financially, emotionally, etc. But be sure that you do not get exploited or dragged into their own dramas and problems. So particularly in the first years, and depending on your family background, these first years could become first decades. After you become financially independent, after you become a full-fledged adult, the tendency will be for your family of origin to try to drag you in, or to try to back in, or try to not respect the fact that now you have your own life. And the easiest way to do that is by means of financial need on their side. So my strategy has always been, do not borrow money, do not lend money to anyone, because then this creates a weird dynamics, interpersonal dynamics. Give them, let's say, $10, $20, $50, an amount of money you can dispose of. Tell them, look, here you have the money. You can live on this money if you're careful for the next 2 weeks. But please do not ever, I don't need them back, the money back, but please do not ever ask me for financial assistance again. And then you'll have peace. Of course, there will be people who will come back and ask for money again, but then you have to set boundaries and to say no. First time this happens, helping them out with money you dispose of. It gets you, puts you in a place emotionally to think I've done everything I could. But doing it repeatedly without receiving the money back only puts you in the position of being exploited. Now, in the seldom case, in the rare case, it never happened to me, but it might happen to you, that you do receive those money back. You can, of course, next time do the same. In my experience, it never happened. So number 10, if you start to feel resentment because of helping them out and supporting them in whatever way, back off. Resentment leads to contempt automatically after a while. In order to avoid this, go back to number 3 and 4, that is, learn to love in a healthy manner the members of your family, both immediate and extended, by means of clear communication, quality time, and listening non-judgmentally. And learn to set and enforce boundaries. And then make sure that you set boundaries and enforce consistent consequences in case they are not respected. So when you start to develop resentment, you have to look into yourself and elaborate and think about what has led to this situation. Why do I find myself into this situation? And then solve that problem. Do not try to think in terms of, I hate them. No, you allowed it to happen. You allowed it to come to this point. So you have to solve the situation first from within yourself, and then go back to the drawing board and see which boundaries have been crossed, respectively, which boundaries have not been set properly from the beginning, respectively, which consequences have not been enforced consistently. You can still love your family, and it's important to love them. It's important not to start hating and resenting them, but you must live a life which is your own, over which you have control, and which leads to contentment and fulfillment for yourself. Now I have a bonus, number 11. Strive for reciprocity in all interhuman interactions, both private and professional. Why have I added this bonus in this list is that very often it comes to the situation where specific members of the family are constantly in need for help and assistance and support, and specific members of the same family are constantly the ones who are offering this help, support, assistance, and so on. If you sense this disbalance or imbalance, again, back off. It might be that due to specific childhood and adolescence background development, you do not realize that you're being exploited, but you are probably being exploited. So back off before it is too late. At the end of the day, we all have to come to terms with our lives, and we have to lead functional lives as ourselves and by ourselves, to be independent and autonomous. And helping someone too much at some point becomes really detrimental, even if it's it develops incrementally. So that would be for today. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to welcoming you back very soon again. Love and peace to you all.